guys hear me all right? All right, I can't hear myself. That's on me. I have to turn up my own headphones individually. Well, you can't hear you because I haven't turned you on yet.
Right. That helps.
There we go. I was trying to figure out my own problem first. See what happens when we take a week off?
We don't know what we're doing.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just over here pressing random things. But this is Spooky South Coast, where we talk about the paranormal, as we do most Saturday nights. We weren't here last week for the Provincetown Paracon, which was a fun time. And I won't be here next week. You guys are going to do a show without me? Is that the plan? You have somebody lined up?
I do. So far, it's going to be me, talking to me.
Okay.
And then Lynn Marie's going to join me.
Okay.
So...
We won't be talking to just you. I mean, I think Matt's going to be here. Somebody has to let you in.
Somebody has to let me in. No, Matt and I are going to tackle it. We haven't done this in 3 years, so this is going to be interesting. So I hope it all goes smoothly.
Is this going to be with or without the studio cat?
With.
With? Okay.
For sure. There's going to be a studio cat. I'm sorry.
Well, here's the problem with the idea of a studio cat.
What?
Is, first of all, like... They've redone the bathrooms now. They've really spruced this place up. So there's nowhere to really put a cat box.
Okay. All right.
So this cat is going to have to be willing to come in while people are here and then kind of like go outside. Can we put like a cat tent out there for it to live in?
We could. I could probably come up with some interesting spots to put a cat box.
There's a lot of... No, I don't know about that. There's a lot of paranormal places that have cats.
Really?
Did you know that? Yeah, a lot of haunted locations, like old historic homes and stuff that will have cats, because cats will keep the mice away and will kind of keep any of the insects and rodents from getting involved in the situation. Because when you're protecting a place that's 300 years old, you don't want rats in there, you don't want termites, you don't want any of these things that can cause structural problems.
I mean, I can think of one place off the top of my head that has a cat, but I don't know if I've ever been to any places that do.
A lot of these, I don't know if it's so much that the cat like lives in these places per se, but there's a lot. And when you're dealing with historic places, there's a lot of old ladies that are involved with these places. They like to bring their cats.
I would bring my cat tonight if I was allowed to. He's super cool. He's a black cat. His name is Binks.
No, after the time you brought your dog here, that didn't go so well for me.
I brought my dog to the parking lot, and no, it did not go over well for you, but you snuck up on me with a brand new baby in the back seat.
I'm pretty sure that I walked directly toward you for a good 3 minutes.
You did, but I didn't realize that you were there. So.
And the dog knew.
The dog knew before I did.
The dog was just being a jerk.
The dog is also 6 pounds. Let's put that out there.
Right.
My shepherd wasn't with me.
A little dog and a big dog. And I go and get bitten by the little dog.
Right.
Little dogs don't like me all that much. Big dogs, because I roll around the floor with them. I'm like, ooh, it's a big goof. Well, Matt's dog and I, we have a great history of rolling around on the floor together. And
we were just talking about Matt's dog before you got here.
My favorite thing to do with Matt's dog used to be on the wooden floors, like getting her real excited, and then she would like run down the wood floors, and then like eventually her legs would give out, and she would just slide the rest of the way.
That happens to my shepherd in my house all the time, and I feel bad for him. The legs kind of go out from underneath him like he's ice skating. So.
I say we do that with Moniz next time we're at an event. Who's a good Moniz?
No.
Who's a good Moniz? He'll get all excited. His tongue will start hanging out.
Nope.
And then he'll like start taking off down the thing, and then we'll have to try and
I'm going to leave that to you, and you only. I'm not getting involved in that.
Well, as I mentioned, last week we were at Provincetown Paracon, and a little bit later on tonight we're going to be joined by our guest, Jason Offut, and we're going to talk about a variety of different weird and strange things, including those butterfly people, because that's where we first came up with the idea of, hey, we got to get Jason on the show, because it came up a while back where the butterfly people were brought up, and we said this is something that we have to explore a little bit more. So we'll do that later on with Jason Offut. And if anybody wants to call in during the show, 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. You can also get at us at SpookySC on Twitter, or the hashtag SpookyLive. I was trying to combine both those things together.
That's okay.
Into one thing.
I forgive you.
But hashtag SpookyLive, or directly at SpookySC, SpookyCrew at SpookySouthCoast.com, and Matt's going to get the stuff going if he can. I'm sorry for my computer. It's probably my computer's fault.
We might blame your computer.
Remember how much trouble we were having with it last Saturday?
We were.
Provincetown Paracon.
And I was just telling him how we had that weird...
I should have thought of that.
We had this one tried to restart on me before you got here, and I stopped the process, but We did see that the candy bar problem has been fixed.
Oh, it has?
It has.
Thank you. Yeah, for those not familiar. Somebody decided to play a April Fool's Day joke on me, and they changed something in the system so that every time I typed the word ghost, it would replace with the word candy bars. And you would think that, somebody like me, I'd probably type the word ghost quite a bit. And so we almost were promoting our next event, candy bars of the Gateway. But
I thought it was pretty funny.
It was.
But
when
you didn't think it was very funny.
When I couldn't get it to stop, even when he told me how to get it to stop, and it
Right.
still didn't stop. Like, it still says candy bars.
It was really funny when we were trying to put a presentation together.
Yes, but it worked out all right. And I did mention that we do have an event on sale now, Ghosts of the Gateway, happening August 12th at the Wareham Historical Society buildings. We're going to try and make this an annual thing for them because it's a big fundraiser for them. So those tickets are on sale at SpookySouthCoast.com. I don't know how to get to it on the website, but if you go to my Facebook, well, because I made it as a page and then I didn't put it anywhere. So
Right.
I realized that, like, as I was driving here, I was like, I didn't put it anywhere anchored on the page. But you can get it on the Spooky South Coast Facebook account and on the Twitter account and on mine as well. We have it there. Well, I'll get it on the page. Because I realized, I was like, I made it an event, and then we changed it to a page, and I didn't put it up there. So it's up. You can get tickets. But we just announced a little twist today.
We did.
I've been thinking about this since, like, the beginning of last summer. And Jeff Belanger and I had talked about, in the past, wanting to come up with some different things that we could do for paranormal fun. People that we like hanging out with, but we always only hang out with in, like, old abandoned places looking for ghosts.
Right.
But what's something that we could do, during the summer maybe, where it could just be a fun, good time? And so I was thinking about it. People love to have, softball leagues and all that kind of stuff. And
Right.
I said, well, softball, you got to go out and get equipment. People have to get a glove. And what's something that we can all get together and play where it wouldn't involve that much equipment? And the only thing I could think of was kickball. Everybody can play kickball.
Right.
And I put dodgeball, didn't
You
I?
put dodgeball.
It's kickball.
Thank the
I gotta
Lord.
change that.
Because I'm looking at this, like,
As I'm saying that, I remember we said dodgeball.
I thought you were out of your mind.
No,
when you
because we don't
announced
have an indoor place to play, so we can't play dodgeball.
that. Thank God.
You need walls for dodgeball.
I was the dodgeball champion of my elementary school.
But that was in a school. That was in a building that had walls.
No, it wasn't. It was actually outside.
That's just craziness, because the balls just go everywhere.
So we had this painted square on the pavement, and the entire class lined up along the square. So it created like a human square instead of walls. But the balls came at you from all different angles, not just one side or the other. So it was a little more difficult to play, but I was the champion.
We used to play a game called Watusi. That was my favorite.
I have no idea what that is.
It was like dodgeball, but with a jail, and it was really cool.
Yeah, so kickball it is. And
I'm going to edit. I'm editing my post right now.
So we announced that, I'm looking right now, the next 20 people, correct me if I'm wrong, to buy tickets to the event are guaranteed a spot on one of the kickball teams. The kickball teams will be called Tim's Terrors versus Steph's Spirits. So how are we working this? Are we allowing them to pick their team, or are we picking them?
No. Just
Or it's random?
The first 20 people that buy a ticket, or the next 20 people that buy a ticket, they'll be able to be part of the teams for sure.
Okay.
Because not everybody that buys a ticket is going to want to play or come early
Of
or
course,
whatever.
right.
So the idea is that, the people who that want to will get in, and then we'll have just spots that can be filled afterwards with people that just show up. I mean, the Kickball Classic is not part of the event itself per se, so you don't need a ticket. You can just come and hang out. It's just going to be for fun. Maybe we'll pass the hat and collect a little bit more money for the Historical Society or something.
So ticket holders are guaranteed a spot.
The next 20 people
Right.
that buy tickets are guaranteed a spot.
But this is open to anybody that wants to come, is what you're
Right.
saying. Okay.
During the kickball game, anybody that
Okay.
wants to come and just hang out can. And if you want to play and you didn't buy a ticket, if there's room on the teams to be filled, we'll fill it from there. And then when we do it, we'll pick teams on the day of.
Okay.
Like totally high school style.
Really?
Totally like make people feel bad for being picked. No, I'm just kidding.
That's
we'll probably
terrible.
just go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But we'll pick teams the day of.
Okay.
And I figured this is the best thing to do is to play kickball, not dodgeball, kickball, because you only just have to go out and get a big kickball.
Right.
And I will get a very large ball, so nobody's going to swing and miss at this one.
Okay.
And there's a couple of fields that we could possibly play on that are very close to where the event's going to take place. So I just had this idea before I tried to get permission to use any of these fields, but we'll be able to.
I'm sure we'll work it out.
Yes.
And it'll be very interesting.
The worst case scenario is we'll play it like in the parking lot of the Tremont Nail Factory. But I'm hoping we can actually get to like a real softball field so that it has like, base paths and all that kind of stuff.
So it'll be really interesting. We might have to throw in some extra twists. My mind's already going.
But the key is like it's just going to be for fun. So even if you're the least athletic person in the world, you're still probably more of an athlete than I am. So and I might just coach.
You're going down.
I might not play.
You have to play. You can't just coach a
team.
Well,
I'm going to play, but like I might like sub in for myself so that somebody else gets a chance.
I think you have to play.
Well, I'll definitely have at least one ups.
Okay.
I'll have ups at least one time, but then I want to make sure that other people get a chance. But it'll be fair. It'll be like Little League style. It'll be fair.
Okay. All right.
The worst thing that'll happen is we'll have to give somebody like a fourth strike. Nobody's going to strike out in this game.
So we're not being competitive.
Oh, we will.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying all this now, but when we get there, it'll be like
you're totally going to change it up.
We gotta beat her. Gonna win. And
good luck.
The advantage of this is, it gets us out in sunshine for a little bit during the summer,
yeah,
which is a very odd experience for a lot of us.
Paranormal people don't experience.
And then afterwards, we will go over to the Ghost of the Gateway event. So tickets are on sale for that now too. So
which are actually going fast, and it's not even June yet.
And we will have some other things coming down the pike, but that's what we have booked right now. Again, we want to do this every year for the Wareham Historical Society if we can. So. And
when do you ever get a chance to hang out in a 1600s tavern?
Right. And if you do buy tickets to the event and play kickball, you're going to get fed afterwards. So it's like having like team pizza afterwards.
And it's delicious. It's so good. And Wareham is the place that Jeff Belanger got his first ever EVP. Mm-hmm. So. And
it's also a Pokestop. So
it is a Pokestop. That's right.
So is the place where we just had wrestling earlier was a Pokestop.
Oh, really?
I didn't get a chance to keep...
Oh, that's right. I knew you were.
Keep checking it out. But, so, again, if you want to join us, SpookySouthCoast.com, and I'll tweet out the information about that. You can find it on our Facebook pages and all that. We'll have more about that in the coming weeks for sure. But I want to take a step back for a minute before we get into the discussion a little bit later on with Jason Offut and about some paranormal topics. I want to take a step back to last weekend when we were in Provincetown, and we had the opportunity to investigate was it the United Unitarian Church meeting house?
Yes, the UU Church, yes.
So this is they do a lot of different things there.
Right.
I know at one point that was like the playhouse where the theater group was putting on their shows.
Right.
They have a lot of community meetings there. They have services there. There's a lot of different people a lot of different organizations that utilize that space. So it's not just always something from a religious bent.
Right.
And even then, the Universalist religion is a very inclusive religion. It's not something that
correct.
Puts up a lot of barriers between one and the other.
Mm-hmm.
So we had all the different areas that people were investigating. Amy and Adam were upstairs with Greg and Dan in Newkirk. You went up there for a little bit with them.
I did.
The rest of us, John Brightman, you and I, Rachel Hoffman, we're all downstairs. So there's 2 floors of people investigating, but weird little things were happening, but nothing that was like really standing out overtly. So I just happened to walk through this back like boiler room area, little small area with a sink and some shelves with some paint on it and everything. And I was walking through there to get to the kitchen. And as I'm walking through, I look in the mirror and I could see something standing behind me in the mirror. And I'm like, well, it's probably, because the lights are off, like it's probably just the reflection of the boiler or something. And so I'm like trying to recreate whatever it was. And nothing was really going on. We had everybody come in there and basically just mirror gaze, stare in the mirror and see what they picked up. And everybody had different experiences. If everybody went in there and said, oh yeah, I was staring at myself and it looked like my face was melting, and that's what everybody said all the time, or if everybody said, okay, it looked like my face was contorting, I'd say, that's probably just your eyes playing tricks on you with the darkness and the shadows of, we had a little flashlight that was people were using to get a little bit of a light source. And anybody that's done a psychomantium, anybody that's done mirror scrying, any of this stuff, you've experienced this type of thing before. But some of the experiences were really strange and really different. Right. There's a reason. I mean, people have been doing this for hundreds of years, thousands of years.
Right.
I mean, even if it was just using your reflection on a pond.
I was going to say water was probably the first source that people went to.
So what are some of the experiences that people have when they do that? Is it uncommon for people to have full-out visions in there?
No. I mean, if you want to go to like more of the stereotypical side of things, crystal balls are another form of scrying, and obviously because it has a reflective surface, people use that as a tool for their intuition, depending on if they're a visual person or they're not, and it helps them kind of see into the reading that they're about to perform, and they can see visions in it. They can see different objects, just very similar to what you would see in your third eye, in your mind's eye, as you're doing a reading. Mirror scrying is a form of transfiguration, so you can see a lot depending on how you set your intentions and what it is that you're looking for or what you're trying to accomplish. The way that I teach it to people, or I allow them to experience during my classes, it's kind of a form of matrixing, but it's a little different, and it actually forms into watching your face change and watching different features of your face change. So not the melting that people were describing, but watching your face physically change into somebody else's face. Like, if obviously I look much different than you, but imagine my face morphing into yours. I don't have a beard. I don't have short hair. I'm not wearing my glasses right now. So if I were to look in and I would see your face, obviously I'm seeing something much different.
So there's some degree of expected distortion.
Yes.
So you have to kind of wait and get past that and get through that.
It depends on who you do it with. If you know what you're doing, it can be a lot faster. But just watching your face change could be matrixing. If you're not setting your intention, you don't know what you're doing.
But if people were staring at the mirror and seeing their face change and said, okay, that's it, I saw my face change, that's enough.
Right.
There could have been more if they'd stayed
absolutely.
and waited.
Yep.
So it's not like it's an either or thing for you.
No. And I mean, some people might just not see something or not be open to, if they're not a visual person or they're kind of holding themselves back a little bit because they're afraid of what they're going to see, that could affect it as well.
One of the things that I found the most interesting about it was that some people were terrified of it before they even knew what was going on. The minute you just said the word mirror, and I don't like to look in mirrors.
Right.
I don't like, because I'm always worried that there's somebody behind me. In fact, like the hotel room that I was staying in, there were 2 beds.
Okay.
And there was one closer to the door, and then one closer to like the back area with the bathroom. And my natural inclination is to put as much space between me and a door as I can. Okay. And so the first night I laid down in bed, I was like, I'm definitely, it was like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I got there after the VIP party. And I was like, I'm taking the bed that is furthest from the door. And for some reason, this place especially freaked me out because
yes, it did.
I'd never been I'd never stayed in a place like that by myself, where it was one of those places where you walk along and like there's all the doors. You have to go up the stairs and there's another row of doors. One of those outside, and I think it's like a motor lodge is the way they actually would describe it. So I was already a little bit freaked out, and so I said, I'm going to sleep in this bed that's as far away from the door as I can get. Well, sure enough, I wake up in the middle of the night, and I did not realize that there was a full-length mirror directly on the wall across from me. And I said, I don't know if I can stay in this bed now. So then I tried getting in the other bed for a little while, and I was too close to the door, so I ended up moving back. But the mirror was enough for me to say, I'm going to supersede my I got to be as far away from the door as I can rule.
Right. See, that's how I felt when I stayed at the Hawthorne in Salem. I had the rooms are very small because it's a historical hotel, and there is a very large mirror almost kind of like half body length on the wall, and right next to my head, pretty much. And the entire night, I kept having these weird dreams that people were crawling out of that mirror all night long.
Yeah, I just I don't know what it is, and I'm sure that there's something to it, because a lot of people have that fear.
Well, even if you go back, through history, the beliefs that people had about mirrors and the power behind them, and I've talked to a lot of mediums about this too, and just mirrors are just strange. There's something about them.
And there's a difference between the mirrors that people use for proper, mirror gazing and regular mirrors.
Right.
Like if you go buy a mirror, Walmart or Job Lot or wherever you might buy a mirror, it's aluminum backed, so it's like a silver colored backing.
Yep. To
the mirror, and I don't know why they went to that. I think it has it's more reflective, or it stays cleaner or something. But there was I knew it before. There's a reason why they went to a silver metallic backing instead of black backing.
Right.
But and the whole thing with breaking a mirror being 7 years bad luck.
Mm-hmm.
That superstition. You know where that superstition comes from?
Where does that come from?
It actually comes from before middle. I almost said Middle Eastern. Before the Middle Ages. Before those times when mirrors were actually very expensive.
Right.
So you didn't want to break a mirror because it was so expensive to be able to replace it.
Right.
So they came up with this superstition that you would have 7 years bad luck if you broke a mirror, so that people would be more careful with mirrors.
Every time I think of creepy mirrors, I think of, and you might not remember it because you might have been too old for it, but somebody out there must remember it. Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon?
I was too old for it, yeah. I mean, I remember it being on,
freaky.
but I just didn't watch it all the time.
For a kid's show, it was actually really scary. So they had a mirror episode, and as we're talking about it, I'm having flashbacks of watching it, and it really freaked me out.
Well, I know that if the Newkirks had a mirror that they were using for their psychomantium, it had the black backing behind it. So that's supposed to be better for you.
It is.
Why would the black be better than the metallic?
I think easier to see the what's the word I'm looking for? I've been doing readings all day, so my mind is completely gone.
Does it give it kind of more of a more depth in the reflection?
Yes, but at the same time, it's easier to watch your face transform, I think, in a black mirror. I feel like a silver mirror is a little too precise, a little too clear, and it's very reflective, so you see exactly what you need to. Where in the black one, you need to kind of move a little bit closer in order to see yourself. I do it by candlelight too, and I do it in pitch black as well. Obviously, you've seen psychomantium chambers; they're always done in pitch black. But I just feel like it's easier to see things behind you. It's easier to see your face transform in a black mirror.
So you can make a mirror,
yeah,
because you can get silver reflective paint a piece of glass, and it turns it into a mirror.
Right.
Can you do the same thing with black paint?
Yes. The mirrors that I have are painted black. Or glass painted black, I should say. They were actually gifted to me. I didn't make them myself. But looking at them, you can see that they were painted. So.
Well, it's certainly something to try if you've never tried it before.
My suggestion is to not try it if you don't know what you're doing.
Well, I think it's something that we can do on August 12th. I mean, I think... I
could certainly do that.
I think there's a couple of spaces in the Faring Tavern that would make nice little psychomantium places.
There could. See, the way I do it is different than just watching and getting freaked out. I actually teach people... I walk people through how to do transfiguration. I shouldn't say that I teach people how to do it, because if I don't teach people how to do it because I'm afraid that they're going to do it the wrong way.
Right.
Because transfiguration is actually really dangerous to do by yourself. So... I do walk people through how to do it the proper way. I actually just did this with Alicia at one of my classes. I did it with Ross as well. And the results that they had were really interesting. So watching people be able to see clear faces on top of their own is actually really creepy.
Yeah, that's a little weird for me. I mean, I've seen just enough of my melting face type effect to say that's
weird.
Good for me.
But seeing somebody else's face or seeing a face of a past loved one is amazing.
I had in the S.K. Pierce mansion, which we're also going back to.
Yes, we are.
But in the S.K. Pierce mansion, I was doing it in the rape closet, and I actually had another face appear behind me. Mm-hmm. It's so much so that I thought somebody had walked into the room.
Right.
So, but I didn't really chalk it up as being anything for sure. I was like, well, maybe I just looked away real fast and looked back and
right.
It was my reflection. I didn't get too freaked out by it, but
you can see things in regular mirrors too. I had my aunt actually called me. She was going through cancer treatment, and she looked in the mirror in the hallway and saw my grandfather's face instead of hers, and freaked out and screamed and called my mom and asked if that could even be possible. And then she kept trying to explain it away as maybe something else.
And it never popped into her head that maybe she had quantum leaped into your grandfather or something? No?
No.
All right.
No, so...
do you even get the reference?
No. Of course I don't. We go through this every week.
So Quantum Leap was one of the best TV shows ever.
We just talked about this.
Matt, can I get a hell yeah on Quantum Leap being a good show? Right. Yeah, see? He agrees. So it was this anthology show where we
explained this on the show, I think, 2 weeks ago.
This physicist would move into other people's bodies.
Right.
And so they always had the moment where he would look in the mirror and see their face instead of his. So that's why I think that was just what was going on, is he was just doing transfiguration. So, yes, pseudonym, we are aware that the live stream is dropping out. We are abandoning it for the night.
Are we?
Yeah, that's what happens when you're not here. The studio turns against you.
That's so sad.
The studio's like, you don't want to come in? Fine, I'll show you.
It's a sad situation.
I know, I always feel bad, when Matt sets it up and now he's taking it all down, and I'm like, I feel bad because I can't help, because I'm stuck, I can't talk and how... And I don't know why Sesame Street's on the TV behind you.
I don't know.
Well, it just went to Casey and the Sunshine Band. I think they're showing something from the 70s.
All right, good. That makes me feel
over
better.
your shoulder, which is weird enough. So anyway, we also were talking about, while we were at Provincetown Paracon, I do want to share this story a little bit with people.
Okay.
Because you had a very strange friendship that developed over the course of the weekend with Billie, the Idol of Nightmares.
I did.
And so this is, for those unfamiliar, Greg and Dana Newkirk, they run the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and the Occult, and they were there. And believe it or not, this was the first time that I've ever gotten to meet Greg and Dana.
Right.
Having had them on the show numerous times over the last 11 years, this was the first time that we'd ever actually met face-to-face, and the first time that I'd ever seen the museum.
Right.
But I was familiar with some of the stuff from seeing things that they do online.
Yeah, of course.
And
they
seeing
take
the
pictures,
webcams and
videos.
But I wasn't prepared for... Okay, listen. This lineup was great. Mm-hmm. Amy Bruni was there, Adam Berry, we were there, John Brightman, all these great people in the paranormal. But the true rock stars of this whole event, this whole weekend, were these haunted items. Mm-hmm. And the crone was there.
It was.
Ruby the doll. I was blanking on the doll.
Ruby was there, yes.
Actually, pretty much everything that you'd want to see was there. The only thing they didn't bring was the sword.
Yes, they did not bring the sword because they don't allow people to touch the sword anymore.
Well, that's probably a good idea.
And right now, Ty is posting pictures with the sword because he's with them.
Just to rub it in your face. Well, but that sword is specific to the case that they're working on. They need it for the case that they're working on.
Right.
But so this is our first time seeing the Paranormal Museum, the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and Occult in person. And sitting over there as Greg and Dana are doing everything, is this burlap bag...
Yes.
Wrapped around something. Mm-hmm. And anybody that knows the museum knows that when they see that burlap bag, it only means one thing, and that's Billie. And what's funny is Friday night, we hung out with it a little bit. We were kind of just hanging out in that area.
He did not come out of the burlap bag until Saturday.
But he was behind you.
We were sitting right next to him, all wrapped up, and everything was fine.
And yeah, that was the thing, is I knew that Billie was underneath the burlap.
Too. Right.
But it was whatever. We'll see it tomorrow.
Right.
Take a picture with it, whatever. Didn't really think twice about it. It'll be cool.
No.
It'll be cool to get a picture with it tomorrow.
And now, I was with Ty the weekend before, up in Mount Washington with Amy and Adam, and he was telling me all about his weekend coming up with Dana and Greg, and talking to me about all these different objects, and Alicia was telling me all about these objects in February when we were away for business in Florida, and she was showing me pictures at 3 o'clock in the morning and how amazing this is. And I've heard so much about Billie, and sitting next to him, I really didn't think that there was going to be any type of connection, because for whatever reason, that burlap sack blocks the energy from protruding outward.
But then Saturday comes. And Saturday we set up our table. We're sitting at a table talking with people. And at this point, Billy had come out. They had unwrapped him.
They did.
And at some point, you had decided that you were going to go over there. And I think we went over together. You might have beat me by a few minutes.
I went by myself the first time because I was bringing over the Haunted Tarot cards.
Oh, right. I was trying to finish up some things on the computer.
You were finishing up on the computer, and I walked around the corner because they were kind of like in this little inlet inside that room. And I walk around the corner, and I felt like a brick hit me in the middle of the forehead. And it felt like the entire top of my head almost like was leaving my body. I can't even explain the feeling that I had. And I thought to myself, like, my eyeballs feel like they're going to pop out of my head. What is this feeling?
There used to be an extreme Ghostbusters figure of Ray that when you squeezed, like, his arms...
That's exactly how I felt.
The head would pop up and the eyes would bulge out?
Yep,
yeah.
So that's exactly how I felt. So much pressure in my head, and I couldn't see clearly for a minute, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. I'm like, oh, I was just next to all of these objects last night. What is the problem? And I look over, and I made eye contact with Billy. And then I knew. At that moment, I knew exactly why I had this weird pressure in my head, and I couldn't understand what was going on. So it was bizarre at best.
I guess you had already been there for a little bit. I come walking around because we had received a deck of haunted tarot cards.
We did.
That one of our friends said, actually she contacted you and said, I want to get rid of these things. Can you get rid of them? And you would just happen to say, well, we're going to be hanging out with the people from the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal Occult this weekend. Why don't we give it to them? And so you had her drop them off here for me because you didn't want to touch them. And then
sorry, Tim.
And then so they came here to the station.
Right.
And that was, I think, on like Tuesday or Wednesday. And everybody in the station knew that they were here. And somebody who works here...
It was Wednesday because I came here that night to do the Facebook Live with you.
We did the Facebook Live. And then, so there's a person who works here who does tarot card readings.
Right.
And so the next day, he was using them to give readings to everybody. And I said, well, these are supposed to be haunted. Mm-hmm. But nobody had any issues. Nobody had any problems with them. And then we brought them to Greg and Dana on Saturday. We gave them to them. So I come around because they had said they wanted to get a picture with us.
Right.
So I come over to where you guys are talking, and I go around the corner. There's a wall between where the museum is and where we're all sitting. So I go around the corner, and you're already over there hanging out with Billy. And you and Alicia were kind of passing him back and forth. Actually, Alicia, you hadn't touched him yet. Alicia was still holding him.
Right.
And Alicia was very protective of him as she was holding them.
That had been hours since I saw him that morning because they asked me if I wanted to hold him, and I said no. And they looked at me and they were like, well, why? And I said, he's demanding respect and I have to ask permission to hold him. And every single time I said something to Greg, he gave me that Greg smirk where, I mean, to me, that was almost like an understanding, like, okay, I that makes sense. And we kind of went from there. So all day long, I kept going past and kind of building up that relationship a little bit and like waiting to hold him. So at this point you came up, I was about to hold him.
I did. I came over and I realized that I got a little bit of a weird feeling around it. And I was, listen, I love Greg and Dana.
Yes.
But I think a lot of these items are a story.
Right.
And I think that a lot of these items, not that they've made it up, but they've collected these stories from people who have these items.
Right.
And same thing with Zaphis. You're picking up somebody else's item that has somebody else's energies attached to it. So it's not going to do the same thing for you that it does for everybody else. So I'm fully expecting these items not to have any effect on me.
Right.
Because I'm not affected by items like that. And so I'm just kind of watching what's going on. I just want to talk with everybody.
Right.
So I see Alicia holding him, and I'm starting to feel a little bit weird. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until you picked it up and held it, which was a few minutes after I got over there. They had actually asked me first if I wanted to hold. Like, Alicia was like trying to get me like,
yep, I asked you if you wanted to go first.
No.
And you started to back up when we asked you that.
And when you took him into your hands, it got really weird. Because all of a sudden, the back of my neck felt like it was on fire.
Right.
And the top back of my head was very tingly. Mm-hmm. And so it was almost like he was saying he wanted you to hold him and for me to back away.
Right.
So I did. And I kept moving a little bit closer, and if I moved closer, I'd get that feeling in the back of my neck again, and it was kind of weird because it kept happening.
Right.
And I did eventually hold him, and what's funny is I didn't feel that feeling when I was holding him. Only when you were holding him or when I was just around it.
Right.
The other part that I thought was strange was, like Alicia had pointed it out, he gets heavy.
Yes, when he doesn't want to be held by you.
He doesn't feel heavy when you first pick it up. You're like,
No.
oh, wow, I was expecting this to be heavier. But it gets heavy fast when he wants to be put down.
She actually described it as, when you carry something extremely heavy and you finally let it go, like your arm just doesn't feel right. You have to shake it off. It takes a while to get back to normal. That's what it felt like for her.
So I was very hesitant to get close
Right.
because you were making a connection with it. He was talking to you. You were sitting down holding him. He requested to go to our lecture.
He did. And he was only nice to you after the lecture.
That's true.
But I think it's because you were saying nice things about me in the lecture, so he changed his mind about you.
Well, and then he came along for the investigation, too.
He did.
And as soon as they pulled him out for the investigation, I was like, I feel it. Like,
Yes.
I could tell when he was unwrapped because I would get that feeling in the back of my neck and in my head.
And I've known you for a long time now. And I have been through a lot with your beliefs and the way that you see certain things. And, I think we have to say we have a mutual understanding of you're very skeptical. So am I, but I obviously have this weird ability that I have to put up with and you have to put up with. And watching everything change for you over the years and to have you react this way to an idol is bizarre for me because I never see you react to anything like that. So
fast forward now.
Mm-hmm.
We have these experiences all week, all weekend. Fast forward to today.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Paranormal Lockdown marathon on
Yes.
Destination America. And that reminds me in my head that I have some Paranormal Lockdown episodes in my DVR to watch.
Yep.
When it was airing in the winter. I was very busy. I started working on Haunted Towns. I didn't really have a chance to really get involved in watching anything. So I kind of put it in my DVR and said, I will get to this eventually. So today I said, I'm going to watch a couple episodes. There's been some stuff going on with the Oliver House. There's a convention that's happening or should be happening. And so I was like, well, I want to watch that one for sure. And I was like, I have these other ones that I've saved that have friends of ours. There's an episode with John Tenney.
Right.
An episode of Greg and Dana. So I turn it on, and I start watching it. And in this episode, they're at the Scott Mansion, I think, was the one? Yes. And so Greg and Dana come in, and they bring some different items. And they have the crone, and they have the blackback mirror. I forget what the other one was that they brought in. And they brought out Billy. Sure enough, as soon as they unwrap Billy, and Billy's on the screen,
No way.
back of my neck.
Stop it.
Tingly feeling in my head. I was like, okay, this is weird because this is filmed months ago. This was filmed like a year ago.
Right.
And I'm not in any kind of direct connection, but it's almost like he was trying to say,
Gotcha.
yep, I know you're watching me right now.
See,
So,
Greg actually filmed on his phone my reaction to holding Billy for the first time.
Oh, that's the thing with Greg is like you never like when you're doing something, all of a sudden he's like right there with the
Yep.
camera phone. He's like, so how you feeling? What are you feeling right now?
But I like it because it was a weird experience for me.
And because you're never going to know what was going through your, what you looked like.
Right. And to feel that feeling of holding this thing, it was the best way I can describe it is this weird attraction where I knew I needed to hold it, but I knew it needed to be on his terms. And when I sat down, I held him, and it felt like there was nothing in my lap at all. It was bizarre.
Very weird.
I'll have to tell you the rest after
Yes,
our break.
we'll talk more about this coming up. Actually, after the break, we're going to be joined by our guest, Jason
We
Offut. And we'll take your calls and questions at 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. Those are the numbers to call in and join in. Again, the live video stream has gone down for the night, but you can still join in the chat room on our YouTube channel. The chat room is still up and running if you want to interact with us that way as well. And for those of you who are there, all you got to do is just download the Spooky South Coast app. You can still hear the audio, and you'll still be able to enjoy the show. So we'll be back in just a few with more Spooky South Coast.
Council.